When it opens up, it'll open up to this flash screen normally. And we want to actually create a blank session here so that we know how to set up all of the tracks and all of the parameters right from the very beginning. So let's just say create blank session, say OK down here, and now we want to make sure that we put this not on the desktop, but inside that folder on the desktop, the one that we just created over here. Now, if you don't see any of this stuff, you might see something like that. Just open it up. Make sure you choose desktop over here. If you don't see that, incidentally, it might be because you have to open it up here. And get into the folder that has your name on it. Okay? And now, name your first project like this. Project1 underscore, and then last name, first initial. And that way it'll always be separate from anybody else's project, even if you get it mixed up in some other folder. Okay, so here we go. We're going to hit save. And it should open up Pro Tools to this screen. Now, before we get into that, even if your screen looks slightly different, I want to go over to the folder here and show you what we actually did. I just opened up that folder, and inside the folder that I created on the desktop is another folder that says Project1 underscore Seabald D. Fine, let's see what's in it. Wow, look at all this stuff. It automatically creates, when you open up a new session in Pro Tools, it automatically creates a place for audio files, a place for clips that have been grouped together, even video files if you need them. And then this thing, this is the actual map to how those audio files are going to be used in your project. I don't even know what that is. It's wave cache. Geez, I don't know what that is. So it doesn't really matter. In any case, you got to know that you're actually creating, when you create a new session, you're actually creating a folder with subfolders in it where you can store all the audio files that you create, all the edits that you create, and everything that you'll need to make this Project 1. Okay, so let's just close that. Let's go back to Pro Tools and stretch it back to there. Now, the look of your Pro Tools might be a little different from this, but I want you to try and get it so that it looks as much like this as you can get. One thing that you might have is a column on this side called clips. Maybe even on the other side you might have a column called tracks and things like that. But in this case, let's just close that. So basically all you've got here is a big editing window. Now maybe you don't even have that. Maybe you've got a different window like this called the mix window. It doesn't have anything in it yet because we don't have any tracks. In any case, whatever you've got, you can always go to the window menu and get up the edit window. You might even have this showing, the transport. Now normally you don't really need this transport here because you can put it into the header bar of the Pro Tools edit window. I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you've got this going here, let's just close it. If you don't have the transport controls up here, here's the way to get them. Go over to this little triangle right there, click on it, and put a check mark beside the transport commands. And then they appear in the header of the edit window. Now, one other thing that you might want to do, because it might be set up wrong, is open up MIDI controls and just make sure that count off is not checked for now. There it's on. In other words, when you start a piece or when you start to record, it's going to go tick, 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 and then start recording. Well, we don't want that in this case. We want it to start recording just as soon as we turn it on. So I'm going to click that off and just make sure it's clicked off, and then I can get rid of that window if I want to. I can leave it there too if I have the room for it, but right now I'm just going to get rid of it. Okay, so we've created a desktop folder. We've opened up Pro Tools and created a session to put into the folder. And we've checked out what's in the session folder. We've made sure that the edit window is showing and gotten a little bit familiar with what's in the Windows menu just in case you need to have some of these other windows open. So now let's go ahead and check just a few other things just to make sure that everything is working correctly. You don't normally have to do this, but just to show you what they do, here's the setup menu, and I'm going to go to the playback engine right here and make sure that my digital I/O device is the one that's showing right here, okay? In my case, it's the 1. In your case, it could be something else, but you want to make sure that that's the one that's showing. The hardware buffer size, I want this thing to respond just as fast as possible, so I'm going to select 64 samples rather than any of these bigger ones. Now that thing is okay. And one other thing here, I'm going to go to I/O. And again, make sure that 1 is set up for output and 1 is also set up for input. Again, normally you're not going to have to do any of this stuff most of the time because it'll automatically work. I'm just showing you where you have to go in case something isn't working, in case you can't record. All right, now it's time to set up a track so that we can actually do a little bit of recording here. I'm going to go up to the track menu and I'm going to say New. Let's just go with one track right now. We want that track to be an audio track. We'll get into the rest of these types of tracks later, but right now we're going to go with an audio track, and you can have it register in samples. That's going to be just fine. Let's go ahead and create it. And there it is over there. Let's make sure we can see the whole thing. I'm going to drag it over here so that you can see the entire header. Now maybe, just maybe, your header doesn't look like that. It might be that your header doesn't have some of these blocks in here. You get those blocks by going over to this little icon right here, click on it, and what you don't want to see, like comments, you can take the check mark off. Most of the time you are going to want to see inserts, but if you don't, you can turn that off too. Over here, the I/O is represented. In this case, I want the 1 to be the input device. Nothing else will do. And over here, I want the 1 to be the output device so that I can hear what I'm doing.